So this morning, this is our agenda for today. We're gonna start with our one-word check-in in the chat box. We're also gonna do our grounding statement activity. And today we're gonna be doing something a little differently. We're actually gonna be taking a deeper dive into our grounding statement, our first one, and we're gonna be jumping into breakout rooms and having some small group discussions. And then from there, we're gonna go to our education stream core team report outs. And so I do see that most of our conveners are on the call this morning. Mahalo for being here, and we will look forward to hearing your updates and happenings with the work you folks are doing. And then at 10:45, I'm very pleased to have our special guest from Kanu o Āina this morning, and they will be presenting about their Hawaiian culture-based education math curriculum. So super excited to have Keomailani Case, Jerry, and Camilla this morning. I look forward to their presentation at 10:45. We will have time for any participant announcements at around 11:15 or shortly after the presentation. And then we also put a new kind of addition into our meeting this morning. And that is, we found that some of you may want to stay after the meeting and have one-on-one conversations, or, if you're new to the education stream and you don't want to ask a question during the meeting, we're gonna allow 5 minutes at the end of our meeting today for anyone that would like to just check in with us one-on-one, or if you have questions or you're new and you want to learn more about what we do, stick around at 11:25 and we'll hang out. Myself and our other leads will hang out and talk story with you. So that's what's in store for us today. And again, mahalo everybody for being here. Okay, so we're gonna start with our one-word check-in. So those of you that are familiar with our meetings, in the chat box, if you could share one word or phrase to describe how you are doing today. And this is just so we can see, just a temperature check for us. So we have mellow from Caroline, wonderful from Naina, Uhiapo, alive, Julia, to strive from Keomailani Case, grateful from Kavehi, aloha, productive, caffeinated. I love it. Curious, grateful, hopeful, interested, tired. Yeah, I hear you on that one. Excited, nervous, oh shucks, no worries. Vibrant, recovering. Oh no, I hope you're feeling better, Camilla, if you were sick. And someone's laughing. Half here, half in, half out. I like that one too. Oh, mahalo, you guys. We have all different kinds of feelings and people in different spaces, but mahalo for joining us and being sharing this space with us in the moment. So mahalo for that, guys. Super fun. And we have another one. Great. So moving on with that, what we'd like to do now is, so those of you that have been here for a while, Vibrant Hawaii, we have a grounding statement, which is made up of, it's actually a compilation of, I want to say like 6 different messages, like the one you see on my screen right now. What we're going to do today is, this is the number where we start with our grounding statement, and it's Vibrant Hawaii is a growing community that commits to individual and collective awamo kuleana to increase equitable opportunities to build wealth, an abundant reservoir of human, social, natural, and financial capital that we contribute to and draw upon. So we're gonna do a little activity, and we're just like gonna see how this goes. So bear with me. We're gonna put you guys all in breakout rooms, and we want you to have a quick couple-minute discussion on what you do in your work that kind of reflects this statement here. And Ku'uhiapo is gonna throw us into breakout rooms. He's also gonna put the question that we wanna talk about in the banner for us. And let me see if I have it here. Yes. How does this part of the grounding statement resonate with the work that you do? So let me check. We're ready to go in. Are we ready to go into breakout rooms? Okay, perfect.
Yes, sir.
And we have still people joining.
How long? Good question.
Let's do 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Perfect. All right.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I don't know if you were like me, but I got completely shut off. I got zoomed back into the main session. So maybe I think that was a very beneficial, exciting, and interesting discussion to have. And so maybe we want to, in the future, next meeting, do like maybe 5 minutes. So we're not all like cut off mid-sentence and zooming back to the main session. But mahalo everybody for spending time just deep diving a little bit deeper into that. It was a pleasure to share some ideas. Kuhiapo, did you have, I know you maybe were gonna call on anyone if they wanted to share, or did you still wanna do that, or you wanna move forward? I'm good either way.
I think we can call upon 2 people if anybody is interested in sharing what they shared in their breakout rooms. Do we have any volunteers who would like to share? Yes, Caroline.
I was always that kid sitting in the front of the class like that. So, well, our team was very busy building actually our abundant reservoir of human capital. And because not all of us knew each other, we kind of just stayed at that part in introducing ourselves. So we were completely within the spirit of the grounding statement, even though we didn't actually talk about it specifically.
That's great, Caroline. Excited to hear that. That's also the purpose. And I guess I'll just share sort of my reflection on this was that it was super nice to get to one, like Caroline said, meet new folks and just have a little bit of even a 2-minute conversation to grow our human capital, but also learn a little bit about how this grounding statement not only can be a reflection of those of us who are part of the vibrant Hawaii Ohana, but also how it can be really reflective in the work that we do in our individual careers and communities. So mahalo for that insight this morning. I learned something today, new today. So we're gonna jump into our core team report outs. And I believe Ku'uhiapo, you are up first.
Hikino. All right, let's get started. So yeah, I am the convener. For those of you who don't know, I'm the convener or the lead for this program or this core team underneath the education stream called Kuhi Kuhi, most known as Kuhi Kuhi Mentorship Program. This program is focused on giving opportunities to individuals through help with resume writing or building and interviewing. And I'm learning about how to survive the probation period. And so I did a quick introduction of what it was during our first stream, because I see a lot of new faces today, I think I can just go back and explain again what Kuhi Kuhi is. Give me 1 second as I get my my things together on my side. But Kuhi Kuhi, again, is a program that focuses on providing guidance and tools and networking opportunities for individuals, specifically like young adults. And we want to connect these young adults or these mentees to professionals in the community, those who are willing to volunteer their time to help these individuals navigate through or breaking through the into the workforce. For me, I believe it is important for youth or just anybody in Hawaii to have the knowledge and the core capacities to enter their desired field and to thrive in it. And so like for me as a young adult, I've had to learn everything on my own in terms of resume building and interviewing skills. And I wish that there was a program like this that would not only equip me with the skills and knowledge, but also connect me with individuals in the community who knows HR processes and who could also just be that foundation for me, that those pillars where I can lean on for help. So this project consists of a two-part series or two workshops. The first workshop is called The Art of Interviews, which is actually scheduled on Friday, March 11th from 10 o'clock to 11:30. And this workshop, it will cover interview etiquette, interview questions, and presenting your authentic self in a way that shines. And then we have our second workshop, which is acing the probation period, which is happening a month after the first workshop, which is scheduled on Friday, April 8th from 10 o'clock to 11:30, which essentially gives insight into what it means to perform well in the first 90 days of a new job. Individuals who are interested in becoming a participant can register for this first workshop on March 11th at vibranthawaii.org/get involved, and I'll put the link in the bio, the link into the chat. And professionals who would like to volunteer their time as mentors, I see actually a few faces in this call who I'm in close contact with. They can email me if you're interested for more information about what it means to be a mentor for this program, and mentor training dates. Yeah, so I'm going to send out the link to where you can register as well, and I'll also put the flyer in the chat as well, so that you guys will have something to hopefully to have in hand and also share out. I'm hoping, and this is a request to anybody on here who is interested, if you could also share out to anybody that you know who would benefit. If you have a nephew, a niece, even your own child who you think would really benefit from this program, I would really highly recommend getting the word out to those individuals. So yeah, mahalo nui.
Mahalo ku'uhiapo. And Janice, mahalo for dropping those links in the chat box. So they are there. So vibranthawaii.org/get involved is the place to go for all of our core team information. And ku'uhiapo's email is in there as well. So our next core team is the Digital Literacy Project. So I did see Noah jump in. Mahalo for joining us this morning. Are you ready to share some updates?
Yeah, sure am. Thanks very much for having me, and sorry for having missed the last meeting. I just have a brief update here on our program. So this is the Digital Literacy Program, and I'm sorry I don't have the file to share, but Janice, if you have that handy, if you can share the latest flyer, that would be great. So we continue to make progress on this, and for those who may not be familiar with it, it's a program designed to provide Hawaii Island residents with basic computer and internet skills. So they actually meet with instructors. We have instructors covering the entire island, and participants are able to get basic training that allows them to understand and utilize a laptop, and also to be able to navigate the internet. As part of the training, they also get a complimentary laptop that they can use to further their exploration and their skills. So as far as status goes, we started this just before the holidays, and our goal is to, by the end of March coming up, to have made contact with or engaged with 500 of our residents. We've had the distraction of the holidays, of course, and also the hesitation brought about by the COVID surge. But despite that, we were able to engage with over 160 residents. There are at least 71 of them who have completed the training. We're still trying to confirm all of the status for each individual in our tracker. But we've made that progress. So close to 160 who are actually in various stages. They're scheduled. They've been contacted. We're trying to get them on the calendar, or we've actually completed training. We clearly have a long way to go. to be able to achieve that goal. And I, personally, I don't think that we're going to be able to achieve that given just the traction we've been making with our outreach. We're starting to market more. We want to emphasize that this is not just for kupuna. I think there was, in some of the earlier flyers that we sent out, there may have been some impression that this is just for kupuna. The idea is that it's for everybody who needs to be able to utilize effectively a computer. And that could be individuals who may be on the internet through a smartphone. They may be able to do that effectively over a smartphone, but they don't know how to use an internet, the laptop rather. And as we know, there are a number of services out there, valuable services, social services, education, et cetera, that can only be effectively accessed through a computer. So that's where we're at. We're going to continue ramping up on marketing, making sure we reach our intended audience and not just not our kupuna. And we would like assistance. So if we have groups that we are fully engaged with, if we can share the message, that would be greatly appreciated. And oh, we have the flyer. So Janice, thanks for sharing that information.
Yeah.
That's my update. Thank you.
Mahalo no, and thank you so much for being here this morning. And super exciting update. Awesome to hear the progress that you folks have made. And yes, we would definitely appreciate anybody's kokua with passing this around, or if you know anybody that's interested in need of this. And then, like Noel said, it is for everybody that would need some help in this area. So mahalo, exciting stuff. And the flyer is in the chat box. Mahalo, Janice. And our next core team is gonna be Janice and Papa, Passion and Purpose Academy.
So Papa is the Hawaiian word for class. It is also the word for foundation. And for Vibrant Hawaii, it is also an acronym for Passion and Purpose Academy. What we learned from our community through our listening tours and engagement was, more than anything else, what our community is asking for is equitable access to resources. And so this is one pathway and avenue and offering to provide that, as well as answer the desire for lifelong learning opportunities. So all of us on this call are engaged in providing that to our community. So first and foremost, mahalo nui for your work. Digital badging came onto our radar as an opportunity and as an idea. We were definitely inspired by Ea Ecoversity and the work of Dr. Kukahakalau, and also inspired by what we saw happening through our network of resilience hubs and the incredible amount of skill and knowledge and just offering that our community has to give to one another that may not readily be recognized or translated onto a resume because it did not come from an accredited institution. And so this is just one piece of what we saw might be able to lend to more meaningful work opportunities and better paying jobs if folks were able to begin to translate all of what they know and what they've learned and what they have experienced doing in community and have it recognized through something as simple as a digital badge or an e-certificate that's given out. So that's kind of the whole thought process and rationale behind Kapapa. I would say the third thing that is equally as important and inspiring us to move in this direction is what we learn as we talk to folks about Āina-based education. And at the heart of it, what was shared with us is in Āina-based education, Āina is the kumu, and the teacher is simply the facilitator. And we thought, how can we begin to shift our awareness and value of Āina as kumu? And maybe a step towards that is just beginning to shift our awareness and perception of who is allowed to step into and serve in a kumu capacity. And the realization that all of us have something to teach, all of us have something to learn, and how might this platform begin to shift that mindset and awareness and have us step into more collaboration, contribution, and abundance. And maybe from planting that seed and beginning to heal some of those messages that we've received through traditional colonized institutions, maybe then we can begin to have our awareness go to seeing all of the different ways we can learn and all of the different human and non-human kumu that surround us on a daily basis. So that's kind of like the big dream of Kapapa, and then Kuiapa can show us where we're at right now.
Mahalo, mahalo. I don't think I could have explained that like better than that. Anyway, so Tommy, could I share screen, please? Thank you. So I myself with my my partner Cole, who is also the community engagement ambassador, we have been working on the back end and the design of our Kapapa credentialing, online credentialing platform on Teachable. So we're using this platform called Teachable, and we're just using different, at the moment, we're just doing kind of like demos to see how it actually look like. So for me, because I am working with the Kui program, we just wanted to see what would it look like to put one of our workshops, so the art of interviews, into a online platform. So as you can see, this is kind of like a class or a course called the art of interviews, and then below we have different lessons. And these are lessons that are reflective of our art of interviews workbook that we'll be giving to our mentees. So for example, if you go into step 1 or lesson 1, I'm not going to play myself. So there's like a video where the instructors can just be more, well, I would say not even interactive, but just be more personable and talk to their students in this course. And then below, they can have like more information. You can, instructors can add more information about, what this lesson is about. And then below we have additional resources such as like the overview tab, where we'll have an overview of the lesson. We have a recommended resources tab where instructors can put in just additional resources that they might not be able to put onto this page, or if they're referring to something in their video, they can say, go down here and download recommended resources. And then I love this part of the platform, the community discussion. And so anyone who is a student who has an account for Teachable and then registers for a Vibrant Hawaii course, a Kapapa course, they can go on here and interact not only with the instructor themselves, but also with other students. And then we have a transcript place where instructors can put in the word for word, hopefully word for word, transcript of what they said in the video, and then the MP3 version of their lecture. Yes. And then I don't think I can really show, I don't think it's really reflective of what it actually will be, but on the right-hand corner here, where it says previous lecture, there's supposed to be like next or to the second lesson, but it's not really showing. I'm not really sure why. But as we continue on with the course, we can go through the next lesson, and then as you finish through all the lessons, this part on the side will fill up all the way to 100% complete. So this is only one of the few demos that we're doing. Cole is also doing one for Janice, if you can correct me, something about business or micro investing. And so, yeah, we're very excited to do this, and we're excited that we have someone like Hannah, Dr. Hannah, who is interested in hopping on board with this journey of ours and to put everything online.
Awesome. Yeah, mahalo you guys for that in-depth sharing, and super excited about Kapapa and all the potential that it has, and the exciting courses that are on their way to being launched. Mahalo, Janice and Ku'uhiapo. And Janice just put in the chat, there also will be a 8-week business development course coming up, and I believe that was something that came from our economy stream. And so in the we have a few more other core teams. So I'm going to get moving because we have our presenters at 11:45. Next up, we have Julie. Julie, if you could just share with us the idea behind the showcase of transformational learning projects. Mahalo.
Hello, Tamia. So transformational learning is really the idea that education is about, growing and learning. And as we do that, we transform, right? And so education that really gets at that is what we were working to highlight and really lift up. And in addition to that, and so what we did is bring this together with our community meetings in order to showcase an effort done on our island that is getting at some of the things our community told us in the listening sessions, which had to do with holistic learning, learning outside of the classroom, and kind of pathways into career development. And so these transformational projects, we have a guest speaker at each of the community meetings. And what we want to do is to share what they're doing, highlight what they're doing that meets, transformational learning, and be able to ask them, what do they need to sustain this work? Is it financial capital? Is it, human capital, social capital, natural capital that we know is how our community sees wealth? So as we listen and learn, how can we support these efforts so that they're sustainable, right? We don't necessarily, unless they want to grow, that's not always the goal. Sometimes it's just keep going, right? And how can we support the efforts that have grown out of different communities in order to do that? Because we know that it's not really our job to go in and tell people what, transformational learning looks like for their school or their community, what they develop that is best for them. How can we help them to sustain it? And if they want to grow, grow. So you'll see at 10:45 our guests for this meeting and what they are doing to do that. And as all of us, kind of listen and learn, thinking about how we can support those efforts. And that's it.
Mahalo, Julie, and mahalo for bringing us the monthly presentations and, from all the different communities. It's been super exciting to hear about what different groups and different schools are doing for their community with this. So mahalo for that, and I look forward to our presentation at 10:45. With that, our next theme is Internship Inventory and Best Practices. Caroline, I saw you on the call. You're up.
Actually, Julie was going to speak
Oh,
to
okay.
that, and it ties
Okay.
in with what she just presented. And I'd like to say a word about our next project, the Career Navigators, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, you have a slide for that right after.
Thanks.
Thank you. So this is kind of two parts to a whole. So the Internship Inventory, the Workforce and Professional Development Group, really wanted to dig in to see what is going on already, what has been developed as internship opportunities for our community, and not only learn what exists, but that also reveals what doesn't exist. And in connecting with those groups, it also allows us to see and learn from our community what they have developed over time, because internships are complicated. It's not just, bring somebody in. You have to really think through what is your bigger goal in offering an internship in a business or an organization. How are you going to prepare that person, set up expectations, give feedback, walk them through what really is the internship entire process? How do they debrief afterwards? How do they learn to talk about their experience when they go into an interview and translate that experience into skills and knowledge that they can offer an employer? So it's a complicated process, and we wanted to learn from those who have been doing it for a long time, what some of those best practices are. And then in our last meeting, we discussed, okay, once we have that, how do we then share that out to our community? So kind of two parts of this, right? We're having people come and share. We have Kaylin Surf sharing about the Dragon Den, Lisa Hunter, Akamai, Mina, who I saw on this call, with Sharon Ziegler Chong, there he is, sharing about the Pipes internship, and Heidi Dengren about the Kapila Oihana. And so these are internships that are award-winning, long-term, very successful. And so we want to understand all of the kind of evolutions that they have started to build in to get the greatest impact for those going through it. And then either for next steps is, okay, how do we, sorry, I'll be quiet in a minute. How do we get that information and share it out to our community for businesses and organizations who might want to start an internship, but don't necessarily know what to do or how to organize that and build it out. So things that were kind of on our list of possibilities are partnering with Papa and building out a process for our community to go through and really walk through it with videos from those who have already done it and sharing their experiences. In partnering with the economy stream and seeing, okay, where are these areas of our economy that we want to build? And are there already internship opportunities there, or should we look and work with organizations to build those out and support them, see how we can support them to do that. And lastly, what Caroline will talk about in the career navigators is if we have career navigators across the island, how can they work within their areas of the island with local businesses and organizations and students and community members who want to move in a certain direction and help navigate that process with kind of best practices and ideas in mind. So that's where we're at now.
Mahalo, Julie. And Caroline, you can share with us the career navigator, but we are at 10:46. So after you, I'm gonna wrap up this portion and move on to our guest speakers who are waiting. Mahalo.
Sounds good. I'll be brief. Thank you. So the idea of career navigators is that there's opportunities, there's resources for young people or less young people who want to pursue a career exploration and improvement, but sometimes it's disjointed, and what you really need is a trusted person to help you navigate through it and help you figure out what you want to be, which resources would be helpful to you. And fortunately, we have Laurie with us also on the team that knows a lot about how to counsel people that have experienced trauma and how to help them with their next steps. So that was very brief, but this is our next activity in our core team. This is something that we're just at the design stage and that will be deployed later this spring. So if anybody is interested in joining this effort, please let us know. And I put something in the chat if you have time to read. It has a little more information.
Mahalo, Caroline. And I'd invite anybody, any of the conveners, if you want to stay back for our 5 minutes at the end, maybe somebody heard something and they want to maybe ask you a question. If you have time, because I know we had so many exciting updates, we ran a little over time. So just want to put that out there for you folks. And so I'm going to skip my update and I'll circle back to it later. But right now, what I want to do is have Julie introduce our guest speakers for this morning from Kanu Āina Public Charter School.
Mahalo. Do we have their bios in the slide, or should I pull it up?
No, yeah, pull it up, please. Sorry.
Okay. My apologies.
We also have our bios at the end of our slide as well.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can find. Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right, my apologies. I'm going to read a little bit, but so this morning we have 3 presenters who are presenting on Āina-based mathematics at Kanu Āina NCPCS. And they are one of several GEAR grant recipients that have presented at these community meetings, because the GEAR grant, the Governor's Educational Emergency Relief Fund, was really looking for innovation in education, and those that receive the funding from our island, as well as, you know, the other islands as well. But I found they really focused on a lot of the things that Vibrant Hawaii and transformational learning was looking for. And so we wanted to highlight one each meeting. And so this is one of the final ones that we're getting to. So we're really excited to have them. So Keomailani Case was born and raised in Waimea, Hawaii. She's the elementary Po'okumu, or the principal, at Kanu Āina, a Hawaiian-focused charter school in Waimea. A graduate of this school, she attended the University of Hawaii at Manoa, where she earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education with a Hawaiian focus, as well as her teaching certification. She obtained her master's degree in environmental education with a focus on culturally relevant place-based education. And she's currently positioned to complete her doctorate in education, in leadership in education and continuous improvement. Awesome. Before administration, Keomailani taught at Kanu as the 5th grade kumu for 17 years. She has a passion for her community, Malama Āina, Ike Kupuna, and works hard to foster those relationships with staff, students, and ohana. In addition, we have Journey Evangelista. She's a data and program analyst at Kanu Āina, learning ohana, with 3 years of experience in educational policy and 5 years of systems expertise. Oh my gosh, you must be in so much demand, Journey. Recently credentialed through the University of Chicago Data and Policy Summer Scholars Program, her focus is on enabling people to own their own narratives through data and to leverage those stories to create positive change. She was born and raised on Hawaii Island and feels fortunate to work with the community that helped to raise her. Lastly, I hope I have it. Oh, it's not in the same email stream. Oh, here we go. Camille Dang is currently the high school math and science kumu at Ka'oha, the virtual blended program of Kanu Āina with Haumana and Ohana on the Hawaii Island, Molokai, Oahu, and Kauai. Camille comes to Ka'oha after serving on various research projects at the Center on Disability Studies, College of Education at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. Her research project ranges from STEM education for Native Hawaiian learners to cultural identity development, culturally responsive teaching, multiculturalism, and culture-based learning. Previously, Camille was with Unilever Global as an R&D microbiologist, working exclusively on Taco Bell Yum brand products while teaching chemistry and microbiology in the evening at San Bernardino Valley Community College in California. She quickly realized her love for inspiring young minds to pursue STEM fields, but like many marginalized populations, her Native Hawaiian and Polynesian students were experiencing more obstacles during their educational journey. In pursuit of social justice and reform in education, Camille is finishing her doctoral dissertation at the University of Redlands, studying the intersectionality between cultural identity development and science identity that affects resiliency in Native Hawaiians pursuing STEM classes or STEM career paths. Her life goal is to normalize culture-based pedagogy and mainstream the others in our society. Mahalo to all three of you.
All right, mahalo. We are going to have Journey share her screen for our presentation. Awesome. So mahalo for the wonderful introduction. Thank you very much for having us. We just are inspired to have the opportunity to present to you folks. So in looking at the GEAR grant, and as shared earlier, the GEAR grant stands for Governor's Emergency Education Relief Innovation Fund Grant. We at Kanu Āina looked for a specific grant that aligns with our school pedagogy of implementing native ways of knowing and learning through cultural-based approaches. And one of this is Āina-based mathematics. Okay. So in looking at our needs statements, Kanu Āina is a Hawaiian-focused charter school here based in Waimea, and we thrive on cultural ways of knowing and learning through Aina-based connections and in-person interactions. So we looked at the impacts of the pandemic and tried to see where we could gauge our grant. So through school and program closures due to the pandemic, it disrupted the learning across the state, and especially in charter schools and public schools with high percentages of Native Hawaiians. We also, our Aina-based mathematical experiences decreased because of the shutdowns and because of the impacts of positive cases or close contacts, which prompted the inconsistencies in K-12 math fluency and heightened the need for our strategic shift through delivering Aina-based project-specific mathematical approaches. So in developing our grant, we looked at what action we could take as a school to help increase the math fluency at Kanu Āina and hopefully the broader perspective of schools in Hawaii. So our action is to develop an Aina-based framework to actively engage student learners in an innovative approach that can be adapted for all learning environments that leads to transformative change. So we have a campus program here in Waimea that services K through 12 students. And we also have that virtual component called Ka'oha that hits students across the state of Hawaii. So our design question is, how might we improve the math fluency of K-12 students through Aina-based mathematics with the intention on increasing the fluency of those students through a consortia of Hawaiian-focused charter schools that serve a large population of Native Hawaiian students. To meet this goal, to meet this question, we know that through Aina-based mathematics that begins with student-driven essential questions, it will allow learners to be mathematical problem solvers and practitioners through those hands-on cultural application opportunities. So we're developing our Aina-based mathematical framework. So I'd like to touch on the pictures in this slide. If you can see, these are examples of Aina-based mathematics. So this is our Ka'oha students, and what they're doing is they're conducting a limu study. So it's something that's applicable within our community. It serves the Aina, it serves the Ohana, and it also educates the students. So they're engaged in data collection, measurement, and analysis. And on the previous slide, I forgot to mention, those were examples of students building model va'a. So they used symmetry and different cultural components and community resources to design a perfect model of a va'a. And on the bottom is an example of our community partners. This is a group at the Kopulehu who are teaching through Aina with aligning the students' knuckles to pu'us on the horizon and looking at perspective measurements. All right, so some of our desired outcomes and goals for our grant is to improve upward trends. So looking at our mathematical fluency trends throughout the school and throughout the state of Hawaii, how can we improve that through Aina-based mathematical opportunities? It's also we also need to remember that we have to gear everything towards relationships. So a big part of Kanu Āina is founded on the realization that relationships are the key to opening a learner's mind. It's that building of identity and place and relationships with community and ohana that really allows a learner to flourish and actually thrive. So with relationships, we're looking at different components of the students and ohana building an intimate relationship with not only Āina, but those positive experiences through hands-on application. Looking also at our relevance piece by increasing mathematical fluency through Āina connections and real-world applications like those community partnerships. And then also maintaining our rigor through acquire in-depth understanding and knowledge through skill building, fluencies, processes, problem solving, and through a cultural multidisciplinary approach. So these pictures on this page are perfect examples. Like the bottom picture shows that our students thrive with those hand-based approaches. This is using mathematical terms with building their kala'au for hula. In the above picture, we're looking at those students engaged in kilo, which is those critical observations and predictions on weather components and real world problem solving experiences. So in our GEAR grant, we aimed it at 4 major components. So one is looking at Āina-based mathematics within the ohana setting. So our framework is going to be geared towards giving opportunities and resource connections to our ohana so that when they're out in the community with their students, they can build their math fluency when they're off of campus and away from school. Another component is looking at student and kumu professional development for those strategic implementation of project-specific mathematical approaches. So looking at professional development for our kumu so that they can thrive within the classroom or thrive within the community. And then looking at also all the schools across the state of Hawaii. So through sharing our Āina-based program framework, we're looking at increasing the math fluency across the state of Hawaii within all of the schools. And then another component of our collaboration through this grant is those community-based partners. So getting a connection and establishing that partnership with people within the community so that our Keiki can thrive and have opportunities within their community, whether they're with their ohana, their kumu, or whether they're just out on a huaka'i engaging in Āina. And here's another perfect example of our picture on the bottom, a Keiki using kilo observation skills to mathematically predict weather and determine what's next. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui, Keo Mailani. So Keo Mailani just sort of talked us through what our main objectives and what our hopes and desires were going into this. I'm going to take you through a little bit of where we're at now in the grant. And with the hopes, we'll finish up with where we want to go. So one of the things that we really wanted to start with in the spirit of really embodying getting all of our perspectives and incorporating all of our relationships into the learning experience, we thought it was super important to be able to get a baseline of where each of our communities sat with respect to their understanding of how these concepts, this Āina-based mathematics, STEM, and the Western idea of STEM education lies. So the first survey that we sent out was to our haumana. The population was sent out to all of our students at Kanu Āina from grade 5 through 12. And we got a pretty large number of responses. We ended up getting 89 responses. And we have a pretty robust survey asking a lot of questions relating to things ranging from what is your understanding of math? But also, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a scientist? And we got a range of really, really interesting answers. And we chose to highlight this one because it really ties into our global question and our overarching goal, which is to express to our haumana and our communities how much these concepts interrelate. So we asked, on a scale of 1, where 1 is strongly agree and 7 is strongly disagree on a scale of 1 to 7, how much do you believe that math, science, and Hawaiian culture relate to each other? And as you can see here, there's, a good population of folks that strongly agree, but the majority are sitting sort of in the middle here. And there are a few on the edge that strongly disagree, where there are some populations of our haumana that don't believe that all of these things interrelate to each other. And the largest population of students really aren't quite sure. They're sort of on the fence. And one of our major objectives through this grant is to express really the importance and the truth that these things are naturally interrelated. When we talk about things like kilo, which is an ancient practice of observation and analysis, these are practices that are already ingrained in our communities. And what somebody may call it just data analysis. This may be the Western terminology for this practice, but this is still an ancient practice. And so one of our goals is sort of hoping to shift this distribution from these folks in the strongly disagree in the middle category closer to the strongly agree side. We really hope that folks will start to make those connections through our project. So we also thought it was super important to do a survey of our ohana as well, because it is well known and well documented that the success of a haumana's education experience really relies on what kind of experience they have in the home as well. And so we surveyed our ohana, and again, we had a number of really, really awesome responses and a lot of engagement. And when we chose to highlight here was, how often do you utilize mathematical terms and vocabulary with your keiki? And so you can see here on a similar scale of the Likert scale, 1 to 7, 1 being always and 7 being never. We have almost a similar distribution here of a few in the never category, a few more in the always, but a lot just in the middle. And we're really hoping to move, again, this distribution closer to the left, where we can have more people understanding that these mathematical terms and this vocabulary includes terminology like kilo, includes activities like working in the lo'i, working on the va'a, understanding the stars. Those are also mathematical terms, even though it's not, y equals mx plus b. Reframing our understanding of what constitutes mathematical terms and grounding that in Hawaiian cultural pedagogy. And the last study so far that we've run is regarding our kumu, because just as important it is to understand the relationship between our haumana and their families, the haumana will only be able to absorb as much as the kumu can convey to them. And so we thought it was super important to also really understand where our kumu are at in their understanding of some of these concepts. So a couple of the things that we picked out were super interesting, one of which is, do I understand kilo, or to what degree do I understand kilo? And the other question we asked is, I understand how to use culture-based, Āina-based learning to enhance or increase mathematical fluency and data comprehension. So we put this similarly on the Likert scale, 1 being strongly agree and 7 being strongly disagree. And this one was really awesome. I think it shows really one of the largest strengths in our community. And it's one of the reasons why I think we are uniquely suited to kind of take on this initiative, is that our kumu really get what kilo is. They really understand what these concepts are. And this just goes to show it, a large percentage of our population understands kilo. And we do hope that through this grant, we'll have more in this category, but this is looking pretty good. But one of the reasons why we chose this next question here was because it shows maybe this potential disconnect that's happening, because as we tried to assess how the kumu were able to implement these culture-based, Āina-based learnings with mathematical practices, there was not a really clear integration between these things. While they understood Kilo, it wasn't super clear, it seems, how to interrelate these things and express them in the classroom. So you can see here, there are a large number of folks here that, didn't really understand how to implement these things. And so that's what we hope to express through our grant, is to be able to give our kumu as well this professional development in order to enhance these experiences for our keiki. So before we move on, I just wanted to also express what I just took you through was probably a pretty traditional Western method of showing you what progress looks like and how to measure baseline. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in our meetings is, well, that's the default way of ingesting and conveying information, but that's the way it's always been done. And in the spirit of actually integrating Hawaiian cultural pedagogy and these ancient methods of understanding our world around us with today's modern experience of math and STEM, how can we go beyond just utilizing these charts and graphs and statistics to actually help tap into that ancient knowledge and practice? And so that's where I'll let Camille take over with where we'd like to go with this grant.
Mahalo, Journey. Aloha, everyone. So in terms of what the work we needed to do is that we definitely needed to develop a curriculum pedagogy that is based on cultural practices. And with that being said, though, we also need a rubric to really determine what the learning process has been. So what is Āina-based mathematics success criteria? And when we look to cultural practices, we understand from the survey, we realize that although our cultural practice knowledge within our Hawaiian and Hana populations, as well as within our kumu knowledge, we see needed to better way of understanding mathematics outcomes. So as you know, mathematics is just a way of thinking, and it's a way of understanding how our word is and how we live our life. So the solution for everyday problems, that's what mathematics is. And to understand Āina-based mathematic model and to understand a rubric for understanding the success criteria, we definitely needed to break away from the Western perspective on assessment. We need to go back to the ancient way of teaching. How did the ancient Native Hawaiian do it? Using their lenses, we realized that the important practice of Kilo and Ho'ike, which is the sharing of knowledge through demonstration and application, we realized that we need to incorporate this into our rubric. But instead of just not incorporating or adapting the Western approaches in mathematical content, we should actually embrace the traditional way of learning and sharing knowledge and practices. So we decided to construct, the progress or the progressions of learning based upon Native Hawaiian culture perspective. And when we do this, we are actually allowing our Hawaiian to not only reflect and appreciate their own culture, but also on other cultures and traditions. So as you can see here in this slide, when we start with Ho'ike, we are starting to learn to see that as Hawaiian are observing or utilizing Kilo, they also need to be listening, and not just lohe or to hear, but ho'olohe, to listen, because the universe is always speaking to us. We're always learning from others, and when we are listening, we have ola no eau, or we have life lessons, right? So the first step we realize is that Hawaiian needs to observe and they need to listen. And then as they're observing and listening, they start to have hands-on nurturing. They need hands-on nurturing and instruction so that they can deepen their knowledge or their interest with the Ike from the kumu. And then Haumana can start to demonstrate their ability. So they're beginning to create their skills. At the same time, they're asking for more instruction and they're asking questions to clarify. And as they progress, they're demonstrating their ability to further enhance these layers of understanding. They're adding new insights and reminders. And then as they grow and develop, their skills are consistent and they are able to complete or their learnings. And in return, they go back and they're able to hold Ike to their peers. So there's a cycle within their learning. And for us, Āina-based mathematics, these are the successes. Not, in the next slide, we're going to talk about how it relates, but not the letter grades, the traditional letter grades that we are normally used to. Oh, Journey King, thank you. So math and science is not just about activities and curriculum contents. As we mentioned, it includes the assessments and a rubric, and it determines, the learning process. When we approach success from the Western scientific world, the idea of science is very objective, it's independent, and everyone is saying, oh, you know what, if you work hard, you will achieve an A grade. Unfortunately, it makes our Haumana's identities irrelevant because they're competing in an overwhelming white male classroom, and they didn't have the same background experiences. So it is it's a very limited way of defining our Haumana learning and knowing. Traditional letter grades are very flawed, and it really is an unfair system for Haumana, okay? Not only does it have biases and discouragement into their intelligent abilities, which affects their behavior, but sometimes it can also influence the kumu interpretation of their students' behavior and efforts. So in understanding that, we kind of had to overcome this and realize that we need to create a rubric that builds, that comes from the experiences of the Hawaiian culture values and hands-on learning. So whether it's understanding when the tide is right for fish to bite, or the way of natural farming and maintaining the balance of natural microbes in the soil, to learning how to plan out a patch of lo'i, how do we integrate all these cultural practice stories into the rubric? How do we measure the success of our Haumana? We came up with this rubric based on the life cycle of Kalo, giving respect to the mo'olelo on the creation of the Hawaiian people. And as you know, Haloa is considered the first Hawaiian person. And according to the chant, all Hawaiians trace their root back to him and to his older brother, the Kalo plant. It's where life began for all Hawaiian people. And like the story of Hailoa and the Hawaiian people and the ties to Kalo as an ancestor, we believe that the Āina-based mathematic rubric will help to really help each child to see their worth and develop the sense of belonging. And the sense of belonging is definitely the key to help them flourish and achieve their best academic outcome. So like in the mo'olelo, we look to, the idea of growth as possibility, emerging, developing, implementing, and then continuation and flourishing. And so we added those Native Hawaiian components to it, and we describe the steps instead of saying the letter grade. So, when a child is first starting to learn, they're the aino, they're the seeds. And they definitely need the environment, the right nurture environment, so that it's the right time for them to flourish. So then when they're in that environment, they're able to sprout they're not poo-poo, right? And then they're able to put forth shoots and grow, and they're still needing that nourishment, and now they become the seedling, vovo, right? And then as they grow more mature, they branch out and grow stalks, and then when they are pa'a, they are blossoming, and the branches establish the buds and fruits, and then the cycle, and then they have new ano, right? And so the cycle grows in a circle. So we definitely need to look back on the ancient way of measuring success. Because for us in our project, we are reminded of our kuleana to malama ahamana, and to provide that safe, nourishing environment and care and trust for them. So in the next slide, we are putting together this rubric. As you can see, instead of, asking Kumu to, hey, students memorize algorithm and teach in a Western way of seeing mathematics, we wanted our Hamana to have the opportunity to connect mathematics in a meaningful and relevant context to their lived, to their lives, right? And one of the important things that we understand, because in this chart, as you can see here, in terms of the success criteria, how we put it together, the 5 major components of success criteria in mathematics is problem solving, reasoning improved, communications, connection, and representation. We added the component of cultural knowledge, responsibility to family, community, and environment. And then we put that as the #1 success criteria. So we're still working on the rubric, to be honest, as we're putting in the step and the progressions and identifying the abilities. But by adding that one last component, we feel that then we're incorporating the importance of cultural elements in the teaching of mathematics, in the measurement of mathematics success. Okay, and then in our last slide is our summary, our call for actions. So in conclusion, where do we go from here? We do have some point we wanted to consider. How do we bring, #1, awareness of Hawaiian culture and language to our Homana, Ohana, our Kumu? How can we improve mathematics learning through social and cultural activities? How can we embed the knowledge and skills of everyday activities in cultural heritage within math and science? And in the second idea is approachability. Math needs to be approachable. Students should be actively involved in mathematics class that are meaningful, interesting to them. A lot of people are afraid of mathematics. I know even for myself, even when I study it, mathematics and science has always been scary for me. It's always rigorous and challenging. So I know that by sharing cultural experiences, the teacher can create activities that corresponds to the cultural inheritance of the community. And then in deep knowledge, in culture-based activity, it's just not the curricular content, the classroom management, or even assessment practices. It's actually the involvement of families and communities and cultural practitioners. And by involving these individuals into the knowledge, we are actually helping the students have that sense of belonging, helping them develop that sense of belonging. Another component that we actually need to really understand also is to know what teacher expectations, as well as support them in their growth and connecting them with these practices so that they're comfortable in sharing them with the Hamana. So in terms of creating an action plan, it's about relationship and collaboration. And I think that was what Kemalani had shared, what our goals are. We would love an opportunity to connect with you to, help us develop this action plan to move forward. Whether it's incorporating cultural knowledge and extracting mathematical knowledge and content from it, or developing professional development for our kumu, or creating community engagement for Hawaiian experiences, we would actually love to connect and network with you. So in closing, we know that this moment, although difficult, presents an opportunity to correct the long-standing exclusion and limitation of many Native Hawaiian Haumana for achieving the best in mathematics. But I think that we can do it together. Thank you.
Mahalo. That is such an amazing project. And I really thank the three of you for coming and sharing. I want to give just a couple minutes for any questions that people might have. I have like 20, so I'm going to be quiet, but the major one is, how can we support you?
I think any type of support, like Camille mentioned, community-based resources, anything that, mana'o you could lend for teacher professional development opportunities, huaka'i opportunities, or just sharing your expertise and knowledge about Āina and how mathematics and holistic learning and how everything integrates with each other would be beneficial to our grant.
I just want to say mahalo. Just so very proud to see this work coming from Hawaii Island, and mahalo to each of you for investing your incredible Kona Ike Hawaii and stepping into this courageous space for Keiki and for future generations. Absolutely love seeing your work come alive, and really excited for where this is gonna take us, and the opportunities and the inspiration that our community and just the unleashing of potential and restoration of dignity. I think that's also coming across so clear in the investment and the work that you're doing. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo.
Yeah, we're super grateful for having this opportunity to connect with you all. It was one of the major things that we were hoping for out of this grant, was to make this connection, was to be able to get out there. This project is, we've all talked about it, Camille, Kemalani, and I, like super personal to us, because as we were kind of growing up here too and learning some of these concepts, I think that we're not strangers to that feeling of feeling like it's intangible and that there's somebody that doesn't really care about that, so we're just grateful to have this community of support and to be working on this. And, if you felt that way too, or your Haumana feel that way too, like, let's definitely collaborate and make sure that we can make sure no more kids feel that way here.
On a side note, I've always thought that the most amazing practical application of mathematics is planning a party or a baby luau. Like, you gotta think, like, how much people is coming, or how much people did I invite? What is the percentage that's gonna show up? How many people possibly gonna bring extra people?
How much laulau could I make?
Like, how many pounds of pig I gotta try get? How many tea leaves I gotta try like get people? How many people I need? How much paper plates? Like, you gotta think of all that stuff down to like how much soda boxes, Ziploc bags, what size Ziploc bag we need for all the leftovers. There's like makimakika to like 10th level going on there. So
I
look
totally
forward to that module.
I totally agree with that. Mahalo.
For saying that, because I actually tell my Hawaiianas all the time, the math they do in their home or within the community is so important. That existing knowledge structure, is important for them to also integrate with new knowledge, because that's actually where innovation comes in, right? And if we don't allow them to have that space to say, hey, the math I do at home, the math my mom, my ohana do is so important. You know, it's very similar to this, and just show the connections. You know, that's what mathematics really is. We don't realize we do it every day, and to appreciate your own culture, you know, that sense of belonging is so important for building that confidence in that child.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add a little mana'o. Thank you, Janice, for that example, because that's exactly what we're aiming for. Is those critical experiences are going to inspire deep reflection, and that deep reflection impacts memory. And when that impacts memory, it inspires action. And it's exactly what we want our Keiki to do, is become those community contributors through the mathematical fluency and their capabilities of schools to implement and infiltrate the community and inspire action. So mahalo for that example.
Maybe even become teachers.
Exactly. And that's the transformational component, is now they're creating new knowledge and adding it to the foundations of ancestral knowledge. Mahalo, Julie, for adding that.
We've been getting a lot of comments about just how inspiring this presentation is, and just again, mahalo for your guys' time. I know Caroline had a question about it, being able to get the slide deck that you guys presented for this presentation.
Thank you. And more than getting the slides is, I always assumed that the GEAR grant was to elevate the innovation and share it so that more people can use it. And so I was wondering, you know, how is the plan to spread this great knowledge?
Yeah, definitely. We want to present and have our framework available to other charter schools, other public schools, and also the community members. One of our key things that we're aiming to is really indigenize the way we present data. So it's something that Journey touched upon, because with Āina-based mathematics and Āina-based learning, we want to get out of the modernized ways and standards mode of presenting our data. So we're really strategizing on how we can grow ourselves and grow as an organization to have those components on how we display our growing and how do we display our framework. So what you saw in the slides are really just the foundation and the building blocks, and we're leading in towards like our evolution of where we can take this. So
I'm just taking a second to share so you guys get 1 minute of feedback on people's takeaways of what this project makes them think about education, right? And so for those of you participating, please, yeah, just take a second to enter. What does this make you think about education? I wish this is what my education looked like, right? It did not at all. Hence my dislike of math. It is still scary for me, right? It's very intimidating. So it's inspiring. It's seeing with Hawaiian eyes. It's connection. It's real. It's indigenous. It's Keiki focused and meaningful and cool and relevant and fun, application, accessible, purpose. So every time it moves, I get thrown off. Connections, right? And I love that you guys started with the idea of relationships, because absolutely we cannot learn without those relationships in place. All right, thank you so much. I'll let Tamia close.
So mahalo nui kako for everybody on our call today, is for our presenters for sharing your just super inspirational project that you have and all that you do for our Hamana and Keiki and Waimea and beyond with this research that you folks are doing. And hopefully that will be like the beginning of just a wonderful foundation of knowledge and ways of doing things in our education system. So very excited to see that. Mahalo to all of our conveners for being here this morning with us and sharing your core team updates. We are over time. We will hold space for anybody that would like to stay behind and has specific questions. We did cut our presentation a little short. So kalamai, we didn't get to everything today. But I look forward to continuing our conversations and seeing everybody again next month on March 30 at 10 a.m. So mahalo nui and ahui ho.
All